Hello and welcome to Story X Story, the podcast by Maya Mada that dives deep into stories across pop culture, brings you closer to the people who make them, plus gives you advice on creating your own. It's episode 242, and I am your co host, Nigel.
I am Tazziii, content creator and co-host.
And as always, we're bringing you interesting discussions with diverse voices. And to help us out today, as we return to the city, the world of Zootropolis, is animation writer and producer Pietro Schito. Pietro, welcome to the show. And how's it going?
Thank you. I'm doing great. I'm so happy to be here.
No, happy to have you. Always like having a range of voices, especially ones with such expertise as yourself. So definitely want to bring some of that out into the podcast. So yeah, first time on the show. Yeah, we're just basically going to involve you in a conversation and pick your brain on all things Zootopia. So look forward to that. For listeners, you can subscribe to Story X Story wherever you get your podcast from, and that includes Apple Podcasts and Spotify, YouTube as well. You can also send us your feedback and questions in a variety of ways. You can chat with us in the Studio 77 Discord, all brand new looking, thanks to Tazziii. You can email us at studio77@mymatter.com, or you can throw your thoughts at us on social media. We are at mymatter on Twitter, at mymattertv on Instagram and TikTok, and at mymatter.com on Blue Sky, or at Life of a W Gamer on Instagram and TikTok, and at Tazziii on everything else. You can also check out mymatter.com to learn more about the My Matter brand, our characters and stories, the events that we run, community activities, and other shows that you can get involved with. Speaking of things that you can get involved with, we do have our Do I Look Like a Gamer campaign, which is gearing up for 2026. We believe everyone can play games and everyone can win as well. And the campaign is about making a yearly initiative to promote inclusion and diversity in the games industry. So we start off by showcasing 40 players and makers who prove that very fact that everyone can win. And yeah, it's all about capturing the diversity that does exist in games in order to inspire more of it in the next generation of diverse talent. So whether you're just discovering games or you've been playing for years, you can get involved in the events, potentially in the photo campaign as well, as we push for a more inclusive games culture. So yeah, we are doing the photo campaign at the time of recording and for March. So if you are listening and it's still March, you potentially have an opportunity to get involved. You can go to looklikeagamer.com or email us hello@looklikeagamer.com. As we gather another 40 people for this year, it will take us to 200 photos across all of the campaigns. So we need your help to get there. Get involved or nominate someone. Give the friendly push forward. We've had a few people do that, submit people who you think would be a good shout to get involved with that. So check that out. That's where we are with the brand at the moment. We've got the main story discussion to come, but let's get started with some other stories that we've been consuming recently.
So this is our spoiler-free discussion of what people have been reading, watching, or playing. So we'll start with our guest. Pietro, do you want to let us know what stories you have been keeping up with recently?
Yeah, so I've finally gotten a little back into video games because I felt like I wasn't given time to that thing that I loved when I was younger. Now it's so hard to find the time, and I am prioritizing games that are very story driven. I don't know how late in the game I am, but I just discovered the new Indiana Jones version, and it's very
Oh,
story
nice.
driven. And I felt it was also very authentic with the language and voice acting, because I'm from Italy, and there's a huge part where I'm working when I'm currently at in the game that happens in the Vatican. The sound, the name, even the little details in the game that were really researched. And speaking of diversity and representation, I felt really like they did a lot of work into getting the real Italian actors and having research the art and the architecture of that, and then in trying to get to watch all the Oscar nominees, like nominated films for Best Picture. I still have, as the time of this recording, a few days left, and The one that struck me most was Bugonia. I really thought that was very interesting and clever. And I still have to watch a few of the other films, but that was very good writing.
Yeah. It's nice to hear that, like, when a game is like really, it hits those really authentic points, you know?
Yeah, because I understand how a casting director sometimes, because they do not know the language, it's so easy to bring
Mm.
up someone who pretends to know enough, and then people that speak the language, they immediately they understand that this person, they're not from the country for real. They're just making up an accent, and we see that a lot. And I imagine that even other countries and groups of people, they get misrepresented a lot of times in films.
For sure. Yeah, let me go through my stories. I've tried to keep it kind of like different mediums, a range. So I'll start with anime. So I've been watching an anime called Jack of All Trades, Party of None.
Hmm.
Yeah, the name is definitely what drew me to this. Felt like it was relatable. Yeah, really fun so far. It's basically about a character who has a lot of different skills, and is in one role in his party as a, what is it called? Not a mage, but whatever spellcasters are called in their universe. I can't remember.
Magic guy.
Magic guy, yeah. And but he's actually a swordsman because they could only have one swordsman, and his friend was a swordsman, so he was like, "Oh, I'll be like the mage or whatever," and then he gets kicked out, and then that's where our story starts. But it's like kind of a story about an underestimated character just because he doesn't seem to be strong in the areas that people think. But yeah, it's great. Really enjoying that. Also really enjoying the daily life of the Immortal King, which I started as just like a really lazy watch to watch when I was like super tired getting back from set, but still needed to eat and just like needed something. And then I'm like, oh, I really like this. No, have I brought this up before? I don't know.
Not sure.
Yeah, breaks the fourth wall a bit. At first really annoyed me, but I actually kind of really enjoy how they do it. It's kind of like it's got a different sense of humor, I would say. But yeah, it's like super OP character, like world destroying, like not even just world destroying, like multi-universe destroying OP character.
Okay,
But has to
like
like,
Thanos over here.
yeah, but has to completely like suppress everything so that his power doesn't bubble over and like destroy the world. So that it includes his like emotions and like his connections, and it's kind of like, it's actually a really nice story about him making friends. While also being OP and trying not to destroy the world, but you know, not like not even just not trying to destroy the world. It's not accidentally trying to destroy the world,
That's so cool.
because his power is just so OP that if it's unlocked, it's just too overwhelming. Like it will just overwhelm the world with power that will destroy it. So yeah, enjoying that. Got up to date with Slow Horses, which I can't wait for the next season. Honestly, Apple TV shows are just like they're just so good, and Slow Horses is like one of the best ones.
I'm gonna have to get some subscription and get on. It's all the best shows I've still not seen.
Yeah, like, oh my god, there's just so many good ones. So many.
Floribus was amazing.
I haven't watched it yet. It's on my list.
Oh, okay.
It's on my list. I'm watching quite a few other Apple TV shows, but I wanted to keep
Yeah.
it like spread out. But yeah, Slow Horse is one I've finished, so I thought that would be a good one to mention. Underdogs, MI5, London. That's the gist. It's great. And then the one that I really want to gush over, and if anyone ever wants to talk to me about it, like, just I will not stop, feel free, which is Arcana Academy, which is a book that I'm reading, and it's a really fat book. I borrowed it from the library, and it's dense, which I was kind of intimidated by at first because I'm especially for a physical book that I can't carry around with me. But oh my god, I cannot get enough of this. I've been reading it practically every night before bed. I read one or two chapters, and if I can't read it, like I'm too tired to actually get any reading time in, I'm really upset because it is just so good. So it's like the universe that it's set in is all themed around tarot cards.
Okay.
And it's really well done. Like the world building in this, I think, is so well done. So in this universe, our magic users are called arcanists, and not everyone has magic, but some special people do, and they can ink cards. So actually draw them, and then that gives the cards the power, and then anyone can use the cards as power. And only the minor arcana cards can be inked. And so they will activate magic based on the card that's drawn. So if anyone knows tarot, so if it's like one of the cups cards, you're either influencing water or emotion, or there's one card that it's I can't remember whether of swords, and it makes someone tell the truth by holding a dagger to them. No, and every time they don't, one of the swords pierces them. So it's like, it's really cool, like how that's done. And then even like all of the places are all theme named around the tarot. The seasons are based around the tarot. So a year is made up of the 4 seasons, but they're the 4 tarot suits. And I love it. I love the world creation. Like all the clans are named after major arcana. And on top of this amazing world that's built around tarot, which is something that I love, it's also a really, really good, like, what I think, because I haven't read anything about it before reading it. I was just like, name, yeah, love that. And then was not disappointed. But I believe in the direction that it's going, I'm just over halfway through. It's a very slow burn enemies to lovers. Like an actual slow burn. Oh my god, they actually loathe each other. They loathe each other with their whole entire being. And it's just, oh my god, it's so good. It's so good. We've got like just and the main character, she's like 21-year-old woman, feisty, fiery, like amazing. And then we've got her counterpart, I don't know, partner in mutual interest partner in crime that she loathes, the Void Prince, who's this dark, broody, like, oh, I'm so dark, I'm the bringer of death. Like, it's just brilliant. Second son, woe me, my life so hard. Everything's,
Right.
yeah, like, oh, it's so good. It's so good. And it's like so, I don't know the word that I'm looking for, but yeah, I love it. It's kind of based in like this Arcana Academy, so that kind of like magical school vibe, but instead of it being like a school with teenagers, it's like more of a university, because everyone you're like 21 to in your first year. It's quite dark as well. Like if you refuse to serve the crown as an arcanist, you get sent to the mills. So just like indentured servant, you'll die there. Probably a horrid death. Yeah. Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. So if you're into like magic, tarot, slow burn enemies to lovers, it's just an amazing book. Yeah, I think it is like books aren't rated, but if it was, it'd be like an 18 plus. That's me. But if anyone wants to talk about Arcana Academy, hit me up.
I just love hearing you talking about something so excited about it, and it's that already I will listen to you just because of the excitement.
Yeah, oh my god. And literally at any point people have been like, oh, what are you reading? I'm like, okay, let me tell you about the book that I'm reading. I'm so in love with this book. I'm sad because there's only 2 in the series, and it needs to be like I don't know what happens, but I know that I need like a full, like, I need an 8-book long series of this. And like, I love that I'm like over halfway and they're still enemies. It's actually slow burn. Oh my god, it's so good. Anyway, I will not stop. Like, so Nigel, you need to tell us your stories before this becomes an episode about Arcana Academy.
Okay, I can take over. I can drop some things in. So a few things that I've finished or returning to, and a couple that are starting new. So I've finished Vinland Saga. I finished a while ago, but it's been a while. I mean, this is only our second deep dive since the first episode. So since finished Vinland Saga, I didn't realize it was, well, not that I didn't realize. I think I just assumed it was 2 seasons. The story just felt like it was going to a natural end, but there's more to come. I think, yeah, or at least the manga has continued. It's very good. It's I've said before, the tone switch between season 1 and season 2 I've not seen, at least intentionally. And it is very intentional, and it makes sense, but it's just such a hard tonal shift, particularly in the main character. I was always expecting it to come back to to what it was before. I thought it was going to be one of those, but no, they commit to it. So yeah, it's very sort of slow paced, particularly in the second season. But yeah, I really enjoyed that, and interesting to see where it goes, because I did feel the character came to a kind of like natural resting place, but there's more to come. Finished God of War Ragnarok Valhalla. I think I mentioned it on our video game roundtable. I was right at the end of it, sort of last battle in this roguelike run. So last battle, managed to get that. Very, very satisfied.
Are you sad that it's ended?
I'm actually very sad that, that it's ended. You can continue playing it, but I'm sort of once the story's done, I'm like I'm good, kind of thing. Although I'll probably might dip into it, but yeah, I'm actually sad that's ended. So interested to see where they go. I know they did announce more God of War stuff in the recent Sony State of Play, but I think one's essentially remakes and then a different type of game. So yeah, I've reached the end of my God of War run. I have to sit and process that, but very satisfying. That last battle, everything that I enjoy about it, like really close to the edge. Would I make it or not? Really excellent game. I'm gonna stop talking about that before I turn this into a God of War thing. Continuing Better Call Saul. I'm on season 4 now, and this is just a fantastic show. This is the type of show I'm surprised that it's on Netflix, as made by Netflix. Because it's slow in a good way. It's just well paced. It doesn't explain things. There's no unnecessary exposition. This is not Stranger Things where they're sitting everyone in a room to explain the plot over and over again. Is you have to infer things, like there's read between the lines. It is a tragedy, and it, in the back of my mind, I feel it's coming out more and more in season 4. It's good because it is what the story is, and is essentially a prologue to Breaking Bad, which is seen as one of the best TV shows, full stop. So we kind of know where this goes, and it's sad to see it go, because Jimmy starts off as a likable guy. I think he remains likable throughout, but just the direction that he's going, and you're seeing him get closer and closer to that. It's just really sad to see. I'm watching it with almost like a level of anxiety, just because I don't want him to go there, even though I know he's going there. And I think Pietro mentioned Pluribus. Is it Rhea Seehorn who is in that, who plays Kim Wexler in the show, which is a fantastic character. Said it before, yeah. She's way too good for Jimmy. I don't know what she's sticking around for. He needs to break that off. Yeah, I don't know what he's done to deserve that, but I feel, given she's not in Breaking Bad, we've got another thing coming that's going to be very sad to see. But she's fantastic. Just the way she plays this character. So I actually do need to watch Pluribus just to watch her perform in that show, because I imagine she's great there as well.
It's amazing, and it's a hard character to portray.
Yeah, are we talking Pluribus or Better Call Saul?
I still need to catch up on Better Call Saul as well.
Okay, no, it's very good, and it's, when I started it, I was thinking it was always very good. I think it's now getting to like excellent, and I think I'd put it in a category of not as good as Breaking Bad, just because it's an unfair comparison, like literally one of the best shows ever. But I'm now thinking it's just different, but just as good. It's a very good show. Very, very good show. Everyone does a great job in that. So those are the things I'm continuing or finish. But the couple that I've started new, The Legend of Vox Machina, which I've been put on recently, and it is really good. I was actually surprised how good it is and how much I enjoy it, just because it is. So it's coming from the Critical Role team, and as I understand, it's sort of based on one of their campaigns, and they've turned it into a series. It was really impressive, but I think I felt I'd need to know because I don't watch their show, so I don't know what the campaign is. I felt I need to know stuff beforehand, and I'd miss some things. Not at all. Like, is yeah, you can go into it fresh, like I did. It's just a really good story. It's got that good combination of. So it's funny, and I think maybe some people might have an issue with the tonal switches sort of within episodes with some characters, but I think after the first few episodes, it sort of evens it out, and you kind of know what you're getting from the different characters. But it has stakes in it. I think that's like the key thing for me for the story, whether I take it seriously or not. Like, are there stakes and consequences to actions and like meaning? I like the way I'm on season 2, so it's 3 seasons with a 4th one to come, and I like the way they're doing the. You start off with surface level, as you know, just you do with stories. You don't know the character. Well, I don't know the characters, so they're all sort of surface level. But as we go, we get more of their backstory and how that relates to how they act now. So I like that. There's, again, I mentioned consequences. I won't say sort of what, but yeah, things happen and there are consequences, and it feels meaningful. So I like that as well. It's giving me some kind of thing. So it's the whole thing about these 8. It's a ragtag group, 8 ragtag heroes who represent, I guess, different classes and everything, and they're on this quest to save the realm from dark magical forces. And the second season, just gets very serious. So really invested in that. I think about halfway through the second season, so enjoying that. On the other end of things, not necessarily in terms of quality, but maybe pacing, is Frieren, Beyond Journey's End, which I know Tazziii has mentioned. And had a conversation about it recently as well. Very impressed with this show. I remember you mentioned, Tazziii, it's or at least people have complained it's slow. And I mean, I can get that if especially today, sort of TikTok generation. I get that it's very slow and measured, but it's very high quality, and I feel like there's no waste here. Like, everything is adding to this story, and no time is being wasted in this show.
I like that you called it paced, because to me, slow is the wrong description. Slow is something that is going at a pace that isn't contributing to the storytelling.
No,
And that's not what
every step
Frieren
is contributing. I can see that. Yeah, so
methodical is like
very much so. That's a good word. So we should get a thesaurus and all the all the words to describe Frieren. So it's interesting, the premise, because so you follow Frieren, who is a I was going to say magical elf. That feels diminishing, but
generally elves are magic. Yeah.
I guess it's accurate, but it just feels like patronizing as well. But so she's part of or has been part of a party, and you join the story when they've completed the quest. So they completed a 10-year quest, and they are heroes and everything. But as an elf, she has a very much longer shelf life than her teammates. So I guess the premise is she's alone now, and she's going on this journey. But I like she's going on another journey. But I like, at least what I'm seeing is the point of the story so far is almost like recontextualizing the relationships he had that maybe she didn't appreciate at the time, and she's appreciating, or she's learning to appreciate more. I feel that's a good message in that story, a good premise. So you're seeing like characters added, and more characters are starting to be added, more of the world is starting to open up. I think I'm only on episode like 8 or around there, so it's still relatively early, but just well-paced, methodical, really interesting show. So those are all the stories that we have been enjoying. With that, we can get to our main story discussion. We are here to talk about Zootopia 2, which in some places, actually I think in the UK is called Zootropolis, but I've just ignored all of that and I just call it Zootopia.
Every time I'm like, what? Like, looking at the cinema list, and I'm like,
Zootopia, what is that?
It's Zootopia. I don't understand.
You know why?
Do you know why? I did when we did the first Zootopia, but I forgot.
I remember,
It's copyright. It's some copyright from some obscure thing in like Denmark or Netherlands.
Yeah, it's usually something like that, or a misinterpretation or double meaning on some specific words that would lead Disney to change. Otherwise, they would never change it.
No.
Yeah. There's an interesting change in Moana, but that will bring us into R-rated content. So, but there's a reason why that they couldn't use that name in Italy for sure and part of Europe because someone
Interesting.
was too famous and had the same name with something
Okay.
completely
Okay.
unrelated to family-friendly stuff.
Right. Go other end of the scale, perhaps. Cool.
Surely Zootopia could have worked in the UK. it, it's a better.
It might
I
not
would
have been a
prefer the
UK thing. It might
name.
have been a Europe thing. I feel,
Yeah,
yeah,
but we're different.
yeah, I know,
We have
right. I
if we
forget
can
that.
have different walkers,
We're
and
on our own now.
then
We've got blue
yeah.
passports and everything.
But because I prefer the name Zootopia than Zootropolis.
Yeah. Okay, all right. So we're sticking with Zootopia, but just for the record, I did acknowledge. So Zootopia 2 is the 2025 animation produced by Walt Disney Animation Studios and is the sequel to 2016 Zootopia. Directed by Jared Bush and Brian Howard and written by Bush, the film stars Ginnifer Goodwin, Jason Bateman, Idris Elba, and many more. This is a big cast. So a lot of reprising roles from the first film. There are some newcomers, Ki Hue Kwan, Fortune Feimster, Andy Samberg, who I love, Patrick Warburton, Quinta Brunson, and Danny Trejo, which I didn't realize initially, joining the cast with, again, I think there's more. I didn't want to do the whole list because it's a very long list. But spoiler alert, I'll do a recap of the story, but we are going to get into all the kind of spoilery details of this story. But before I do the recap, let's first get everyone's quick takes and general impressions of this story, starting with our guest, Pietro. What did you think about this story?
I loved it. I think that it's a great way to repurpose what worked in the film, in the first one, the universe and the central theme, and bring it to the next level. I felt it was a continuation of a relationship that started, and I cannot avoid watching the film with a screenwriting lens, and I always think about what could be a good example to express some concepts that new writers can understand because it's very clear in the film. And for me, that concept was the idea of the internal growth of the character, specifically with Nick. And we'll probably get to touch on those points later in the conversation. But that was particularly well done.
Cool. Yeah, no, for sure. We'll get to that. Tazzy, what did you think about this story? How did you find it?
I really enjoyed it. A lot of fun. I love the two like different sides that we get from our main protagonists, Nick and Judy. And I also just really loved how they done like the like how the thing of like making a fictional world relatable and relevant to the real world, like all the
Oh
little
yeah,
connections of like
yeah.
different apps that people were using, or like
Oh, you mean
different
on
like
that level, not even like the thematic level, but
no,
just
I'm
the
talking
okay,
like
yeah, no, that's
branding
cool,
and
yeah,
like just like those little
yeah,
things really make me appreciate something like this. I love when some like a show or a film, a work of fiction does this. It's like, instead of this like well-known app that everyone uses. I think there was like one that was like clearly Instagram or TikTok or something, but like they changed the name, and I love those kinds of details. It makes the world feel really real. Yeah. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I really liked like the characters, the character journeys, and a lot of the kind of like theming or like messages that were sprinkled throughout it. Animation, especially like anthropomorphic animation, seems to go really deep.
yeah, yeah. Might take us there for this one. Yeah, no, I tend to agree, and I do like those sort of world building details. I watched this and the first one as well with almost like almost actually probably literally like a mental notes, taking mental notes at how you build a world, especially an anthropomorphic world. Obviously, my Mada universe is anthropomorphic, and even the topic of like in universe brands is something that we've had discussions with, and that side of the brand that over the years haven't invested much into, but want to do that as well as the specific story. So from a learning lessons perspective, really enjoyed this. From a watching it, I really enjoyed this. I was trying to work out, maybe we're going to do this in in this podcast. It's almost like I really enjoyed it, but and I don't quite know what there's something in there, and I've seen some mixed reviews. I mean, it's a fantastically successful, or at least commercially successful, even like in terms of reviews. But I've seen some kind of mixed reviews, and some of them are kind of aligned with. But overall, I really enjoyed it, and I'm gonna use this podcast episode as a as a way to explore some of the maybe like reservations that I have and work out if they're actually reservations or not. But the world building is fantastic. I really enjoy how they do the themes, and from the like what you was talking about, Tazziii, also the thematic points you mentioned. How it just I'm watching this, I'm like, look out the window, and this is also what's happening as well. And that's always fascinating to see in a film aimed at younger audiences as well. So I really like how they do that, and it's funny, it's fun, it's colorful. Yeah, there's a lot to it, and I'll bring up these potential reservations as we go. But before we get to that, I will do a recap for those who need a bit of a refresh as well. So this is a story that takes us back to Zootopia, just a week after Judy Hopps and Nick Wilde have become partners at the Zootopia Police Department. That's the ZPD or ZPD, depending on where in the world you are. But Chief Bogo threatens to separate them if they cannot resolve their continuing differences. During a raid on a smuggling ring, Judy finds a piece of snake skin and later also finds evidence that a snake may be at the Zootennial Gala hosted by Milton Linksley, the grandson of Zootopia's founder Ebenezer Linksley. There, Judy meets Paulbert, the black sheep of the Linksley family. Meanwhile, a viper named Gary D. Snake kidnaps Milton and steals a journal that documents the creation of the weather walls that regulate Zootopia's climate zones. Gary convinces Judy that the journal contains evidence to prove his family's innocence. But when Gary accidentally bites Chief Bogo, the Linksleys frame Judy and Nick for the crime, forcing them to escape. After the incident, Milton orders Mayor Brian Winddancer to kill Gary, Judy, and Nick. Now fugitives, Judy and Nick get help from conspiracy theorist Nibbles Maplestick, who leads them to Marsh Market, a secluded area of Zootopia where reptiles hide. There, a basilisk named Jesus explains that the reptiles' origin district was buried during the construction of Zootopia's Arctic district, Tundra Town, and that is being expanded again, this time to Marsh Market. So Nick and Judy narrowly escape the ZBD, who are in pursuit, and as they attempt to track down Gary, Judy and Nick reach an abandoned lodge where Judy uncovers evidence showing that reptiles once lived peacefully in Zootopia. Another argument occurs between them where Judy begins to think that her and Nick are too different. There, the ZPD arrest Nick, but Gary and the motorcyclist Paulbert help Judy escape. Gary and Paulbert reveal that Gary's great-grandmother, Agnes, was not only the original author of the journal, but also the true founder of Zootopia and the engineer behind the weather walls. Her investor, Ebenezer, took credit and framed her for the murder that made everyone view snakes and other reptiles as dangerous creatures, leading to their exile from Zootopia. Nick escapes prison with the help of Nibbles and finds Judy at Tundra Town weather walls. There, Judy, Gary, and Paulbert find the buried reptile district, but Paulbert betrays Judy and Gary, intending to earn his family's respect by destroying the patent. He injects Judy with snake venom and steals the anti-venom as well. Nick fights Paulbert for the anti-venom and manages to throw it to Gary, who cures Judy. She and Gary save Nick, leading to her and Nick emotionally confessing their feelings for each other. They then find both Agnes's house and the patent, and Paulbert arrives for another attempt to destroy it, but is quickly knocked out, and that's the end of that. The Linksleys are arrested, Judy and Nick are cleared of all charges, and Gary reunites with his family. Nick gifts Judy the newly repaired carrot pen before they begin their next case of tracking down all the escaped convicts that Nick accidentally released. And in a post-credit scene, Judy replays a recording on her carrot pen of Nick saying he loves her before her neighbors interrupt. And after she leaves, a bird feather lands on her windowsill. The end. So, one of the great things about having different people come on, we get people with different experiences and different perspectives. And Pietro, you've got maybe not a particular perspective for this particular film, but you have spoken to one of the creators of the film, Jared Bush. And I'm interested to know, before we get into talking about the film specifically, how that came about and any insight just on writing, creating that you picked up from him.
Oh yeah, that was a super interesting conversation that we had on Write for Animation, a YouTube channel that It's kind of the expansion of what I do as a writer and producer in the animation industry, and which allowed me to get closer to him and get to chat about Encanto at that time. But we also spent some time of the conversation speaking about Zootopia, the first one. I knew that he was kind of working on the sequel, but that was something that we couldn't discuss, and was before he was appointed to become now CCO of Disney, which is basically the most creative leadership position you can have there at the studio. And it's very interesting to see him still directing and writing and being so involved in the launch of the film as well. And I would say that we learned so much from that interview, because he's been writing first since forever. We learned that he cannot draw, so the CCO of Disney cannot draw, and I felt
Okay.
so good about that,
Yeah.
because
Me too.
I'm an animation writer. Yeah, but he said that they make fun of him, and when he draws stick figures to express some of the ideas, and
That's
at
what I do.
Disney.
It works. If it works, it
Exactly,
works.
it works. Exactly, but so many of us might feel like intimidated by the animation industry, and thinking that you need to have drawing artistic skills, and otherwise you will never get in. And it's interesting to see that, there are many opportunities, which leads to a good story. But it's always about focusing the entire team on telling the best possible story. I would say that the absolute best lesson that anyone could learn from that interview is the importance of characters and their relationships. So Zootopia was born at the studio. He was part of the creation of the characters and the world. But the initial story was absolutely different. It was completely unrelated to everything we got to see in the movie theater.
Mm.
But one thing stayed, and that one thing was the relationship between these two characters. That's why I loved how they expanded on that in the sequel. So when we learn storytelling and screenwriting, it's so easy to get confused when you read all these books about the craft, and think that a story is about the structure and being very intentional about when things happen, and with which intensity and all that. But it's really always about characters, and I would say it's even more than characters. It's about relationships, and about those relationships. And he said in the interview, I could take Judy and Nick and put them almost in any story, and their relationship is so interesting to explore, that then they will be the driver and force of nature that will bring out a story. And I think that's an incredible storytelling lesson and filmmaking lesson, to start on the character, make them so endearing and strong that they can resist any executive note at Disney and still be interesting.
Yeah, I imagine that's quite a challenge, that those executive notes. But yeah, no, that's cool. I agree with that. I think, yeah, the characters and the relationships, and yeah, that I think that's the way to go, and I think that can pull an audience in, especially when for now we're going to get so many stories that are sort of churned out in one way or another. I think we can, yeah, respond to like the stimuli of like things flashing on screen, but I think the things that sit with us are this character, this relationship, this arc that they go on is gonna be the thing that sticks with us. So yeah, no, it's good to know, and also good to know stick figures can take you far. So
Exactly.
yeah, I don't need to change basically.
Yeah, you don't.
Cool. um, and I think for this film, it's essentially like building on a hit, because like Zootopia, the first one, was a very successful film. It became the highest grossing animated film of 2016, and the second highest grossing original film, just behind Avatar, which itself was a monumental hit. And then it talks like began right away in terms of the possibility of a sequel naturally. And in 2023, in an earnings call, so companies, or these public companies, do these quarterly earnings call, and Disney CEO Bob Iger confirmed that a sequel was in active development. So that's 2023, and here we are. Well, we're talking about it in 2026, but it was out at the end of 2025. So I think because this one has been a very big success, and in between, Disney have had some hits and a lot of misses. So, what is the success? And I'll put this out to both of you. What does the success of both films say about what an audience wants from animation?
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like this is one of those films, and I feel like when this is done well, and animation does well, is that it's good for the whole family to enjoy, and that it's got different levels, so that there is something for everyone. Like, you have to have things that you have to have the entertainment value for like a young child, but also like interesting enough for an adult, and things that adults can relate to and can be like, oh yeah, I get that. Like, I think like the partner therapy,
Yeah, I was thinking about that.
but like an adult can be like, oh yeah, maybe that's something that I've thought of with someone, whether that's like a romantic partner or partner at work. That kind of, I've been in a situation where maybe we could have done with that type thing. Like, and I feel like this is sprinkled with those things. There's very high entertainment value for a kid, even of like the TikTok generation of like, needing things to be super quick and captivating like that, but also much longer, deeper things running through the whole thing. I think maybe that's part of it. And I think when a film does that especially in animation, that is supposed to be for the family. It doesn't like exclude one part of what a family is, what makes up a family.
I mean, yeah, would you agree with that, Pietro?
Absolutely, yeah. I think that it is not thinking about a film as being for kids. And I don't recall the exact words, but I think that came up in the interview with Jared Bush as well. And at the studio, and this is not something new, but we know that it's never about creating a kids' film. That's very true at Disney Pixar, but I would say in the animation industry, that's why we fight so much for recognition in terms of being a medium for that's different from live action, but not being encapsulated in the idea of that it's for a kid, and not even in the idea that it needs to appeal to the entire family, like the four quadrants idea, because it makes more money. Of course, that is part of it. It's obvious, but it's also the best way to approach a film in general. And then, of course, you have all those elements that if you've been, as Tazziii was saying, if you've been in couple therapy even once, you recognize that uncomfortable new language that they give to you, and then you have to use, but you feel uncomfortable, and but it's also helping the relationship, and you try to make fun, like Nick was trying. Also, the job environment. There are many dynamics that a kid would never get in being in this partnership, in being in the office and the hierarchy of the police department. They had jokes in the first one about DMV. It was super funny. Every
Yeah,
kid
yeah.
would laugh, but kids, they don't have driver's licenses. So it's not like it's still funny because it's a sloth, but there's always that extra element. And by the way, in the first film, they directly reference Breaking Bad, which is also not for kids. So I think
Oh,
that's
yeah.
your reflection was spot on, Tazzy, on those different levels.
Yeah, no, I think the levels were, and I wonder because usually I think this is to this film's credit. Usually, when you do something, it's like, oh, it's for the whole family. It usually means it's polished, it's or sanded all the edges off to the point where it's not saying anything. And this film does say something. I think you can argue how well it says it or how far it, could it say it stronger? I'm not sure, but it definitely there's things there that I'm watching. I'm like, oh yeah, this definitely maps onto where we are. Like I said earlier, so and I think that's that's a difficult thing to do. I think people, because I have this conversation with people where I say like my matters like all ages. It doesn't mean for kids. Like yes, I guess the majority of people who have read our comics are on the younger side of things, but it doesn't mean it's exclusively for kids. Because making things exclusively for kids is a different category than all ages. So this is something where I imagine part of the reason for the success is that parents and family are like, yeah, I'll go see this with you, and know they can actually watch it. And I think, yeah, like you both said, that having those references in there, I think to I mean, a lot of Pixar have done as well, but The Incredibles always comes to my mind as very much a family dynamic, and all the family can get something from that. And I feel from a societal level with Zootopia, I think it does that pretty well. And I think, yeah, we can see a little bit of ourselves in it. And just something about animals as well. I'd add to that. I think if you do it right, yeah, that anthropomorphic, it just breaks down barriers and allows you to have some of those conversations that people might take a different way if it was humans, or they see themselves too clearly in something, if that makes sense. So it's quite a balance, to tread. And this is again very successful, like I said, because the last Disney sort of Pixar thing we did was Elio, which was, I think, the so far the sort of biggest disappointment, at least sort of box office wise, and I argue one of the sort of critically as well, because it wasn't that good. But this has been sort of nominated for things. It's nominated for awards at the Golden Globes, awards at the Annie Awards, including Best Feature, Best Writing Feature for Jared Bush. It's got nominations at the upcoming Academy Awards for Best Animated Feature. It recently won, or it was nominated for 2 BAFTAs and won 1 for Best Animated Film. And commercially, if you care about such things, it is Zootopia 2 is the second highest grossing animated film of all time. Again, no small feat. And I wanted to bring up that side of it as we get into the story, the narrative itself, and just thinking where we are with releases and standing out. And we've heard this in video games, particularly at the indie level, where it's hard to stand out. And remember, we had a conversation with Haz recently about doing something extra to stand out. And I noticed that in the marketing for this, I saw things like airlines, China Eastern Airlines, Air Canada, featuring Zootopia 2 characters as special plane liveries. So like the details on like the wings or the different parts of the plane, collaboration with different franchises, with like merchandise and plushies of Judy, Hopps, Nick Wilde. Obviously, that's ripe for that kind of things. But it makes me wonder, like, where we are today, does the marketing around the story matter as much as the story itself, or would it always come back to, like you said, Pietro, characters? Can the marketing only take you so far? I wonder where we are with that balance now.
Yeah, I love the question. I think that it's evolving because you get conversations where people are talking about memeable moments in a film or
Yeah,
a
yeah.
series. Oh, that's so memeable. I'm not fond of those things in meetings because it's of course the wrong approach from the development perspective. At the same time, it's easy to bash on those things and look down at the marketing and money machine behind these movies. These movies are expensive. They're super, super expensive. So it is a natural consequence that you better make sure everybody knows about that. But without getting into the data and analysis, I think that you can relate to your own experience of what are the movies you watch beyond the first weekend.
Mm,
Usually, I try to believe that it is a very simplified and maybe a romantic version of the whole system. It's way deeper than this. And as you said, from airlines to Netflix streamers, memes, social media, celebrities, it's so complicated what's marketing for a film. But I tend to keep in mind the rule of the first weekend. And we've seen them over and over how even movies with a huge campaign, think about the expectations that even if the campaign was a little more contained, but in the around people who loved Joker, the first film, and they did push quite fairly and enough with Lady Gaga, and there was
mm.
celebrity a component and a lot like I don't know the details of the marketing campaign, but I was definitely aware, like many people, of Joker too. I did not go watch that film on the first weekend. And as soon as I started hearing one person and then one other and then one other and then one other tell me, don't waste your time,
Yeah.
I might be wrong. I might go and be the exception that loved the movie, but I'm pretty sure that's not, it for some reason or another, it's not as good as the first one. And so that's an example on a smaller case than Disney, but you do see that at a pretty high level with big franchise films that everybody is waiting for. You see that in IPs that are huge, that you think they have an existing audience that's impossible to break, and you see flops with in the Marvel universe, in the Star Wars universe. And so I do believe that a lot is done to prepare for that first weekend, but then people talk, and you immediately get the reaction from your friend because
Yeah.
you
And that
naturally
matters.
want to share, right, about the
Mm.
film you liked.
Yeah. Sort of word of mouth on a digital scale.
And I think like relevant marketing campaigns is really important as well. I feel like I'm trying to think of a specific example, but I feel like some films, like their marketing campaigns are just not right. Like I haven't really thought about the audience that's actually going to watch it in that opening weekend and also like beyond. So if you
Mm.
market it wrong, then people will go and see it and then get disappointed because it's not meeting the expectations of how it's been
Right.
marketed. Or like over marketing. Like if you hype it up too much, then you're just ready to fail.
I try to avoid watching trailers. There are films that I do not watch any trailer, or I watch the teaser because of that reason.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially comedies, they like sometimes cram the trailer with all the jokes, and all those jokes you see them coming when they are in the movie theater. And yeah, I'm cannot wait to watch Hopper from Pixar. I did watch the teaser, haven't watched anything else. Anytime it shows up
Yeah.
Same.
I
I
just
managed to
scroll
avoid it.
faster so I
Yeah.
don't want to see any
You don't
spoiler. No,
even
there is a
spoil it.
lizard thing they're pushing to be memeable. I don't care. I want to
Yeah.
watch that lizard on the screen. Hopefully
Yeah,
next this
exactly.
week. And
Giving too many secrets away.
yeah, but they do. I mean, internally they do know that some things will be kept until the movie gets released for streaming. If I recall correctly, for example, in Brave, by the time, spoiler alert, but the mom turns into a bear, and that's like a big component. But in the first trailers, I think there's absolutely no mention of that key element of the story. And then when it was released digitally, I think that a new trailer included that because by that time more people would have
What's out?
discovered that element. But
Yeah.
sometimes, as you say, they push it too far, and then it becomes those movies that are so hyped that then they end up disappointing. That's a very good point.
Or under in the case of Elemental, that had I think it had poor marketing. It didn't show how actually pretty good that film was, and it put the wrong
Yeah.
lens on that.
I
Gotta
love
get
the
the
Elemental.
balance right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay. All right. So, yeah. No, it's interesting to know how. Yeah. How do you thread that needle, so to speak, and like going into the film and the narrative itself. This is where I had, I guess, some of my reservations because it felt familiar in both good and bad ways, and this is what you want from an IP, especially an IP at that scale. You establish something and you want to do more of the same. But then from the narrative perspective, because this picks up like a week after the events, obviously whatever 9 years between, but narratively like a week, and it felt quite similar plot wise in certain cases, which works for I guess like a safety, like as a safe bet. You did the thing that worked well, and we're just going to like tweak here, do the same. So I get that, but then there are things like, so we see Judy and Nick, and they are in the ZPD, but they're just off the back of breaking this big case. They're now not taken seriously in their new role. Does that just me find that weird? How they were received in the role? Because like Judy gets evidence of like a snake, and that's a big thing because there's no snakes in Zootopia, but then it's sort of immediately dismissed and then not given permission to pursue the case, which is a job.
Yeah.
So I don't know if anyone else found that weird.
No,
Okay.
I didn't. I found it actually quite relatable of being like in a role because you're qualified to be, you're there for a reason, and
Yeah.
then wildly underestimated and not taken seriously in that role that you have been hired to do. And also the fact that like she was like, her whole character is that she's a bunny and they're not supposed to be able to, then it's not a role that they're good at,
Yeah.
and that was her whole thing
And Nick's a
in
criminal,
the
a former
first one.
criminal.
And
So
then Nick's like
yeah.
riff raff.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
literally off the street. So I feel like it's quite understandable that they're in a position where it's like, and especially like the co-workers, it's like you, like the other teams, it's like, yeah, like you just got a lucky, for them it's like you just got a lucky
Got
break.
lucky. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, yeah, sure, it's great that you've done this thing, but like, it doesn't make you the big star. You still got to learn the ropes. You still got to like,
Yeah, that's fair.
do your dues, like, and so for me, like, it made sense on those two different levels. It was like relatable in one way, and then also, and they were like super rash, like they were being a bit ridiculous. That's still the way things are done. Like they weren't. Were they
True,
even in the meeting to begin with? They're just like, we're gonna just do this on our own. Like,
yeah, true. They went rogue in their first week, to be fair.
yeah, like I feel like at that point I'd be like, yeah, nervous. Like, okay, I'm new here. We're new here. Like, we still gotta figure it out. But yeah, I think it made sense. I think.
Okay. And I did like because Judy had this thing of I have to prove myself, and again going to the sort of kids versus adult. Well, I guess kids still have this, but like really, when you leave school, you really have this. Like I have to prove myself. Like everything you said, Tazziii, where you're being viewed, especially because they're, I think, physically as well, they're the small ones. So everything you said, plus they're tiny. Like so, you feel like, oh, I have to do more. I think that's a very adulting thing of you can find yourselves in a situation I have to do more to prove that I do actually deserve to be here. And from the external perspective of like everyone else looking, oh, you just got lucky with that bust, like sometimes you can feel that as well. I guess that's the imposter syndrome. So like, oh, did I just get lucky? I have to do it again to make sure that I should be here. So yeah, no, that does make sense. So we see them in that perspective, and then the story, so it's familiar, but then this is a more, I think is a more complicated story. Would you both say? I think particularly again the primary audience, this feels like a complicated story, and it does move at quite a pace through it. Do you feel the structure of it like worked from being able to follow? I mean, not that we're not talking like Breaking Bad here, but in terms of like all the things that were happening when you get into like conspiracy things like that, did you find that everything like hung together generally?
There was a lot, and in both movies, I noticed that if you look at everything that, or at least most of the films from Jared Bush and his directing partner in the films, because they've been working together in the first one, then Encanto, and there's you do see that element of abundance of different worlds, a lot of characters. You know, if you thought that Encanto had too many characters, you know, this has a lot more, and it's tricky to pull it off. And I think that I mean, you could argue that maybe it's too convoluted, but I thought that it was. They did a great job trying to help you keep track with everything. I watched it with my three daughters. The older is 12, so they're pretty young, and they followed the entire story and they were able to understand everything. So it was interesting to see how they're able to pull off like this giant world and so many characters, and you do still see those elements. And that idea you were talking about, I was looking at the script, which is now available online, and it's super interesting to see how they hammer that idea so that you buy it very first, that they are, everybody else is thinking that they got lucky break, they're also jealous, these are the outsiders, one was a criminal and one is a bunny. So if you go through the lines, that they really hammer that to the audience over and over and over again. So that you buy that premise, which is the basis of also trying to keep things moving, because I think that a lot gets reworked in the first act over and over with different versions of the storyboards, and usually you spend a lot of time at the beginning explaining, understanding, creating this bridge between the first film and the sequel, and at some point they say we really need to get to the point. We had to chat with we had the opportunity of chatting with the director of Elemental, and that was the case. That's the case in many movies. I wouldn't be surprised if they had an entire bridge between the first movie and Zootopia 2, and then they said, well, let's just do like a previously on Zootopia, because that's how the film starts. There is a like a previously element that
Yeah,
tells
actually, I
you
forgot that.
if
That
you
surprised
haven't
me. We don't
watched
get
that.
that a lot.
Yeah, and it's more of a TV series, and yet that is kind of the ultimate. Usually, in the old days, they would kind of slowly remind you for a new audience about this character, so that even if you had not seen the first one, or it's been a while and you haven't, you get to know them, and it was interesting to see. Basically, like the film continues into the second one with a literal recap of the first one. I wonder what
I
conversations
appreciate this.
happened there to do that. Yeah, me too. Because sometimes I watch, like for Stranger Things, that took forever
Oh,
between seasons.
that needed that.
Yeah, I
Yes.
went online to
I
look
remember
the
what happened in
recap.
that show.
Yeah, you look up on YouTube a recap.
That's exactly what I did.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, and no, yeah, you reminded me about the recap, and because I remember watching, I'm like, oh, this is strange. Is this where we are in society that we just assume people don't remember everything? But also, I actually appreciated that it was there as well. And if they didn't do it, someone on YouTube is doing here's what to watch, here's what to know before
Yeah.
going in to see enter your thing here.
Also, just let's give all of ourselves a break. Is it that we don't remember as much, or is it that we
But
have
it's too
so
much.
much more
Yes,
to remember?
fair.
Like just
Oh yeah,
basic things alone, like there's just so much to remember. I think it's
Yeah.
fair that we don't remember what happened in a film
thank
that
you.
we watched
I feel
however
much
many
better
years
now.
ago.
Fair point. That's a very valid point. I think the human brain can only take in so much and
Yeah,
hold, and there is a lot
So many
so much
of
animals.
content.
information.
I
Like,
mean, I haven't even got my Apple Plus subscription.
Oh,
Yeah,
exactly.
and so fair. And I think what they do well, like you mentioned, Pietro, the relationship to characters. So we're always following Judy and Nick, and even the points where they're separated, they've established that so well. Obviously during the first film as well, but even in the elements of the early points of the second film, where I don't know what this is. What is there's a name for it? Maybe it's anchoring or something, where in the mind of the audience it's Judy and Nick. So you always everything is like, how's Judy and Nick doing? Like everything that happens, and if they're separated, okay, this is how Nick's doing, this is how Judy's doing. Okay, we need to get them back together, and that just means at any point I feel you know where we're going. It's kind of like Luffy in episode 1 of One Piece saying, I'm going to be king of the pirates. So at any point when you get to, I mean, I haven't even reached the high hundreds yet, but you always know, okay, this guy's trying to be king of the pirates. So all the crazy stuff that happens, this is where we're going. And I feel that's quite a good anchor, and it helps you because it does move at quite a fast pace through the runtime.
Yeah, I absolutely feel and a strong believer in the fact that a good story is about that relationship, and the plot could change, especially in a mystery genre where you're trying to get to know. And that's why you forgive that the fact that it's the structure is already the first one, and betting on repeating some elements that really worked well. I think that it's not just a safe choice. I think it's actually risky many times. Where repeating the same pattern it needs great characters, and to risk doing it again, it might seem the easy answer, but it might actually be the risky one, because we've seen that before. And now it's if you don't bring something different, then visually, like if you look at Avatar from James Cameron, you see, okay, now it's water, and now it's fire, and
Fire.
it's and but you want things to be different, and so it's not only external, but it's really leaning into who are these characters, and where does the relationship stand, and will they be able to go together, which is also the thematic element, because there is a thematic philosophical question at the beginning of the first film that still continues in the second one. In a character's journey, you have the moment where they finally understand where the truth is, what they needed all along to have a fulfilling life. And then towards the third act, as you know and share about, you have that moment where you still doubt, and you think maybe what I tried, what I insisted on believing all my life, or maybe this new discovery about embracing being together, thinking about each other, and not having prejudice against the other species and animals, maybe it doesn't hold, and maybe it's not right. Maybe we're not meant to be together. Maybe it wasn't a
Yeah,
good
yeah, yeah.
pandemic. And that's true in life. It's true of relationships. Like maybe, in couples or not couples, but in any relationship, it's is this just a dream? We're not being, are we being blind to the fact that you and I cannot stay together? That is, to me, the driver of the film.
Yeah, I did. There was that moment. I was going to bring that up, but yeah, well, in terms of relationships, actually, and on the subject of relationships, because it is a big thing in this. Do you guys know the term shipping? This is a new term for me. I
You
didn't
don't
know
know that you've
this.
not had the term shipping before?
I don't know that I've not heard it, but
You must have come across shipping.
because I feel like I must have. But because as I was putting the notes together, it was mentioned. I was like, wait, do I know what that is? And I just did a quick look. I was like, okay, I know what that concept is, but I don't think I must have heard the term, but it's the first time I was like aware
That you've paid
of it.
attention to
That I
it.
paid
It's not
attention.
just
Yeah, yeah.
I
So
aware
am,
of.
uh, I am Italian. I have an excuse for not knowing.
okay, you got an excuse. I don't.
I
I
watch
just
a lot
should.
of anime. I'm very aware of the term shipping.
Okay, do you want to explain that then, Tazzy? You're the de facto
um,
expert.
it's when it's basically when you put two characters together and you create a relationship between them that is either canonically or non-canonically true. A very popular shipping is Sanji and Zoro from One Piece.
Oh, is it? Okay,
Yes.
that I didn't know. That,
Which is a non-canon ship,
yeah.
but a very popular one.
Okay, haters to lovers. I get that. So yeah, so no, very familiar with the term like putting people together and people you want to sort of see. I think people are doing that with Michael B. Jordan and Tessa Thompson at the moment, and I'm here for that. But in
I
terms
would
of
say it's
this,
unethical to ship real life people. It should only be done with characters. Anyway, that's my
okay,
little.
fair enough. All right, we'll put that. So all you people, stop it.
Yes, please.
So yeah, so this idea of like, and with Judy and Nick, I guess seeds are planted in the first one, and then as they kind of get closer, so they're both that different, very different personality. So I guess that's like one of the elements, like opposites attract kind of thing. So Judy continues who she is. Like Judy's personality is like she's in that I was saying, trying to prove herself. She's very how would you describe Judy in this? She's quite. There's a word.
Righteous.
Yeah. Righteous, restless was the word.
Mm,
She feels
yeah.
restless in this, but yeah, also righteous. Definitely, I get it. Whereas
Like
Nick,
a moral compass or engine for
yeah,
the.
oh for sure, yeah, and Nick is like Nick already won. He didn't get arrested. Like
Nick's
that's the
living
energy
life.
that
He just
comes in
gets
this.
paid now.
Yeah,
He gets paid to hang out with his best friend.
yeah. So
Yeah, that's
that's
great.
the energy I got from Nick, and that creates conflict with them. And when you're making a story, like conflict, and not necessarily physical conflict, but conflict is like key to getting that engagement and keeping that interest. So we definitely get that, and then it also causes problems for them because on top of the proving themselves in their new role, it's like literally not doing their job properly, and Chief Bogo is like, sort this out, otherwise you're gone. So then, yeah, and with the shipping thing, it is planted, and obviously it carries through the end, and we get like different elements of it. So in that bus that they try and do when they should have been at the meeting, they're playing partners, and they've got a baby. They go to couples counseling essentially um, for police partners, and then what we see is, particularly with Nick, I guess both of them to an extent, but because Nick is so like seemingly uncaring and always making jokes and just not taking things seriously, we get the impression like he doesn't care. And I think he has I would say he has the biggest character change, because he essentially goes from someone who seemingly doesn't care to admitting to himself that he actually cares a lot more than he
Yeah,
lets on. I don't know if you'd agree with that.
definitely. For Nick is the main arc is for him in this story. I think that they do it very very well, and I agree with the shipping. But here the shipping, is it shipping or shipping?
Shipping, so
Shipping,
Shipping.
like
like
Okay.
as in
Tazzy,
relationship,
you're the shipping expert here,
yeah.
so
as in
I send
relationship
that to you. Yeah.
ing.
Oh,
So it's like half
okay,
of
got it.
relationship
Yeah,
ping.
makes
Yeah.
sense. It's not about sheeps.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm
So
Italian. I learning.
Yeah. You
that's
have a good
cool.
excuse. It's fine.
But Tazzy, yeah, I love to hear more about it.
About the shipping or
Yeah, I mean, I do think that narratively they do play with that element also from a writing perspective, which is embracing all the elements that make a good romantic comedy. And
yes.
those elements are about relationship of opposite people that are not only in the romantic domain, and that's you see that in Pixar a lot. You have Elemental is a romantic comedy, but you see that in the best example, absolutely masterful, is Finding Nemo, where you have this Marlene, the protagonist, being paired with Dory, and the embodiment of the complete opposite philosophy in life and
Yeah.
how they need to go through. And every single scene is putting this truth and the lie that they kind of represent, and pushing the main character into embracing a different way of living. And it's interesting what you pointed at, the fact that she's more the righteous one, the she, she embodies like sticking to the principle she's been defending and working so hard to prove to the rest of the world. So you have this mix of a character arc where they grow from the point of view of her. She grows into proving the society that the truth that she brings to Zootopia is real, that anyone can, um, that we
Can
don't
make it.
can make it. We don't have to have prejudice against each other, and also the fact that you can change. You know that Nick is not chained by who society think a fox should be, and this one, and maybe we can get into that later, but it's I love how they I was reading the script. There's this huge blocks of lines that I was when I watched the film, I hoped that I could get my hands on the script to see them on the page, where they start using couple therapy language at the very end after they are reunited. They spell it out as it is. They tell you
Oh yeah.
exactly, and I would love to read them in a bit to really show how direct they are. And because they use the couple therapy as kind of an excuse to use that language, they're able to really embrace showing that transformation.
Right.
I quite like that in the first film the their relationship it was kind of like seeds were planted for a romantic relationship, but it could quite easily be just a close friendship. Like it was either or. And then that this we focused a lot more about their personal connection. Because I think in the first one it was more about two opposites to bring this this universe, to unite this universe and to bring everyone together. So their personal relationship wasn't the most important part of that. It was just the catalyst to change the rest of the world around them. And then in this, it was a much more heavy focus on their individual relationship with each other. And then that's when, and it's not, and even then, it's not until like right at the end they were like, oh yes,
that they realize it.
Yeah. And so I like that. I like that when we first meet them, it isn't. It has a bit of both of like non-romantic relationship is really important and romantic relationships. And then it's even more like emphasized that both of these things are important with each like buddy cop pair being in, keep going to call it couples therapy, partner therapy together, and their friendships that are being displayed. So then the weight of a connection is not being placed on this romantic connection.
Okay. Yeah, I get
and
that.
to that point, I think what I think it's very noble from the film is that they kind of skip any indulgence into the easy physical attraction.
Yes.
You never see them like looking at each
Yeah.
other.
There is a
You do
moment
really.
where
Oh
at
yeah,
the
but
gala,
it's a very at the gala,
it's
because
light, but it's like her first time where sort of Nick sees Judy as anything other than the goody two shoes carrots, basically.
yeah. But it's very pure. It's not the cheap version where, the fox is instinctual and so
Yeah.
it's trying to, they never go there. I think that it's good because now you do feel that if it ever develops in more of a romantic relationship, that it feels truth. It's not the princess meeting the prince one night and wanting to marry. I kind of see them being ready to get married more than many of the couples we see in animation in general, right?
I get that. I get that.
Yeah.
And what I liked about their journey is you touched on this earlier, Pietro, I think, with the kind of like worldviews and examining that. And there's a moment where so in the film they've got this case, they're fugitives, they're sort of on the run, but Judy is looking for that truth, and Nick is just doesn't or thinks he doesn't care that much. And it's great about Judy's character. She's willing to clash with power, to go above and beyond for the right thing to do. And there's this really symbolic moment where they're in that cabin, or that lodge cabin, and they're about to be caught. And I think that's the height of like Nick's like, oh, we can give this up. It's too far. This is farther than I want to go. And Judy's like, no, we have to go like all the way. And because I went back and looked at the script, because I just really like this line where they're also in a house and they're opposite sides of the building that's being split because it's all falling apart. And I think Nick's like, I don't care about the case, Judy. It's not worth dying for. And then Judy is like, the world will never be a better place if no one is brave enough to do the right thing. And then Nick responds, the world is what it is, Carrots. And sometimes being a hero, it just doesn't make a difference. And then that's where Judy's like, oh, I think maybe we're different, and that speaks to their relationship, but also what I was saying about themes. And like, you can look out the window and there's a lot of people and perhaps companies, maybe ironically with Disney, but there's a lot of companies who are not doing not doing that, because like no one's just brave enough to do the right thing, and everyone's having that it's not worth dying, or replace dying with losing profits or being, I don't know, cancelled or whatever
Yeah,
the
being
thing is.
unliked or whatever
Yeah.
version of that.
So that spoke to their relationship. Also, is one of many examples of this, like Zootopia 1 to speaking to society today, I feel. So I really like that moment.
I just want to, because you brought up that moment, and I love that because this is like a two-parter. This is a two-parter experience, because I remember thinking very similar things when that line come up, but then we revisit it. We revisit it when Nick is in jail and what's the name of the beaver?
Oh,
Nibbles.
Nibbles,
Nibbles made
yeah.
mistake.
Having a conversation, and a great character, by the way, just like eccentric but also really deep and like heartfelt, meaningful,
And they were right.
emotionally connected person. Anyway, so we revisit that line and Nick finishes it. He finishes what he meant that he couldn't say out loud, was that it wasn't about not dying, it was specifically about her not dying and him losing her, and losing the person that he calls a friend as being someone that has been so isolated for so long, has finally found a connection. And I just love that. And it's really bugging me because I feel like I witnessed that recently in another piece of storytelling, very similar. And I'm trying to pinpoint what it was, of like, and it's specific, and it's been I know whatever it was again the male side of the romance, but like that point of like not finishing the sentence, so saying something that's actually like rage inducing to the counterpart because it goes against their freedoms or their like their drive, the thing that makes them them, but it's because they haven't finished.
Yeah.
They haven't
You think
finished.
about Last Blossom?
Maybe. Oh yeah.
Because that was quite rage inducing.
But it's
Watching a
like they're not
character not
finishing the
say,
sentence, not saying like the full thing, and it can have such a different meaning.
yeah. And then, like Pietro, you sort of touched on the ending of that arc in terms of like I guess I was going to say romantic. I guess that's my question. Is it romantic? Because by the end, when they reconnect, and then essentially they both finish the sentence, and Nick, I think they both do, but Nick in particular, because he goes from not caring to very much caring, he has this very long sort of bit of dialogue where he just explains like, this is all my insecurities. I'm emotionally insecure, but you're the one good thing, and all that. And at that point, I really liked that. I thought that was quite a mature thing for a character to say in the film. Sorry, emotionally mature thing for a character to say in a film primarily aimed at kids. And like you said, Pietro, it didn't fall into the sort of typical romantic trappings of a film. Did that need to, because some of again, when I was putting together the notes and just looking at different opinions, is like, did that not go far enough in terms of like, are they romantically involved? Is it just a friend? Does it matter?
That must be the number one question that Jerry Bush gets from the fan
Yeah.
base. I don't know. I think they're intentionally leaving it as is. I think they want people to talk about it. That is kind of the surface level question. I think the deeper answer that they would give as storytellers is, if you really think about it, that's not as relevant as Nick embracing that truth that Judy was able to show to him, and isn't that the best what we do as couples in life? We complement each other and we help each other, and then even though Hobbs does not change as much as Nick, she also has her part in the final
Yeah.
version. That I also thought it was a brilliant way for writers to be able to tell it as it is, because they had those therapy sessions, because usually you want to be way more subtle and work a lot with subtext. But I would love if any of you two, which you guys have a much better accent and pronunciation than I do, if you want to read that part, because it's interesting to see in screenwriting that sometimes we shy away because we learn all about subtext and the fact that we really need to be nuanced and show, don't tell, and things like that. But when you do watch films you love, films that are not only animated films, even films that are very adult or series, there are some moments in which the writers is able to spell it out exactly.
Yeah.
The character journey is on your face. It's really like it's clearly stated at the beginning, and that with a dramatic question, and then in a moment of revelation where the character basically says something like, I used to believe A, but thanks to you, or but after this I now finally embrace B. uh, and I think was a great case study. In this case, is justified by the fact that they're speaking a little bit in therapy language.
Right.
Do you want
That's
me to read out the monologue?
I put it in the
okay.
chat
Yeah.
in case you want to have it handy.
Okay, I don't care that we're different, you know? What I care about is you. I care about you, okay? And I didn't say it, and I should have said it, but I didn't. Because I am an emotionally insecure source of your discomfort who is not good at expressing his feelings. Probably because I've been on my own my whole life. It's not an excuse. It's why instead of telling you that you're the best thing that ever happened to me, I make jokes about your ears and tell you to try hard. When the truth is, I just don't want you to get hurt because no one else in the world matters more to me than you.
Yeah, no, it's really like vulnerable. I was when that moment, I was like, okay, that's he's saying, and I think you make a really good point, Pietro, that it because it is very much on the nose, and usually it's the kind of thing that you say, don't do this, but it makes sense for the character in that moment, and it helps that they've had the therapy. So I'm now like making that connection as well. It helps that they've had that, so it allows Nick to talk like this because it's you set the seed of working through. I'm just going to keep saying couples, couples therapy, so that they can have that moment. I really because I think from the two characters, I think like Nick I relate to. Well, I can see elements of both, but Nick I relate to more. So it's kind of that thing of you sort of feel related or connected to the character in that moment. I'm like, okay, cool, I get what he's going through. So I thought that was really powerful, powerful moment. I think, I mean, there are other characters in this. Were there any other relationships that stood out to either of you?
Oh, I think that's tough because there's the Lynx that's trying to prove himself.
Oh, poor Bert.
Yeah, I think that's a really complex relationship that we don't spend a lot of time on. Also, like I actually nearly got sucked into him actually being good for a moment there.
Yeah.
Like just as I was like, just as my suspicions dropped, literally they're like psych. Anyway, yeah, I think that was like a very interesting relationship dynamic to demonstrate, like just that family trying to prove himself to his family, trying to fit in. There's a lot of proving herself in this, isn't there?
That's a good point. Yeah, because that's how they connect, sort of him and Judy.
Yeah, and being that bull and not wanting. I think because there's a line where Judy's like, you could be good or whatever, and he's like, but I don't want to be.
Yeah.
He doesn't even stutter. He is like, never even crossed
I
my
don't want
mind.
that. Yeah, it's not for me.
And then all the buddy cop duos were like interesting. We don't spend a lot
The
of time with each
Z-Bros.
of them, but yeah, they really demonstrate the different like pairings and.
Yeah, for me it was also that family that scene, the Lingsleys, and you pointed at the exact moment that I observed as well in the film, which is an antagonist that gets an opportunity of redemption and they choose not to take it. And this is kind of that moment of doubt that great antagonists have. And you can see it in many films where at some point they are offered an option to get back to the good side, and they just don't want to. And I think that speaks of it's a mirror for Nick and the entire theme, and seeing how that is also mirrored to her point of view and her family, because she comes from a very small town and where everybody believes that it's dangerous to be in Zootopia. It's not fit. It's like being not leaving your comfort zone and embracing that
The big
prejudice.
city going to
The big city, yeah, and and trying to find safety within the family, and she actually challenges that without becoming an enemy to her parents, because they still have a good relationship, and she's able to expand their view. They're a little bit of a pull because they're very worried, and uh, and you see that, and but it's not like they're well meaning. It's not like they want something bad to happen to her. So I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, the relationship with her parents, again, through the first one, it is very, I feel relatable for a lot of people who try and either literally are going from sort of small town to big city, or doing something that's different from what the family expect and are used to as well. So, like, they don't understand this world that she's going to. All they've heard is the danger, the negative of it. She's going into it, and it's like, why is she doing that? And we don't understand, and we're worried about you. So it's all like love, but it's ignorance, and I say that not in a disparaging way, but they just don't know. So I think that's always for me has been a interesting relationship as well. I thought the Gary the Snake as a new character and his, I guess, relationship with. I mean, we know him and Paul, but at least to an extent, are seen as allies. But then with Judy as well, because even though, I mean, Judy does change, but she is helped along the way by Gary and just his outlook on life. I feel has got an interesting outlook. The whole, like believe it will happen, it will happen, because I felt Judy is in that, energy of have to prove myself. This has to work. We have to get it. And he's like, he as someone who is in a difficult situation is like, relax. It will work out. It will work out. I thought those two as well was like different perspectives on a similar thing of needing this thing to work, but one's like agitating for it, and the other's like, it will work out. I believe it will work out. I thought that was a nice kind of setup for them. And with the like the world building aspect, I mean, we talked about like it's. I feel this is something that this film like excels at, the way it presents the different worlds, like visually as well. I mean, we can talk about the visuals in the films. It's visually very impressive. I feel there's a lot going on because it moves at high speeds, and there's a lot of different environments. So they go from like the police station. Where else do they go? They go to that the initial chase where they mess up the statue and everything. They go to like that Burning Man style
Oh,
desert where we
yes.
see Gazelle. That's a whole different
Yeah.
environment. The water chase, the water slide. I think
Yeah.
that's a whole like visually.
Snow.
There's a lot being done here.
That's why they're expensive.
That's why. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, and I think there's a quote I got from Peter de Brugge from Variety who says, technologically speaking, many of these sequences simply wouldn't have been possible 9 years ago. Packed with detail, the crowd scenes are so rich it will take repeat viewings to spot even half the jokes. Meanwhile, the chase through the marsh market, yeah, that's another one, ranks among the most complicated sequences Disney animation has ever pulled off. I thought, yeah, like visually, there's just so much going on here, and you can almost take it for granted. You just expect things to look cool, but there's a lot being done here. So, is there anything that impressed you most? Any sequence that impressed you, either of you, about the visually, the world building, the scenes that we were seeing?
I think it was impressive, but I part of me could analyze all that water and simulation and effects and all the layers of the complexity. It's definitely a big scale. The number of creatures and rigs and how the crowds are specific. It's incredible. Like not only in the execution, but also the thinking about it. And by the way, this completely random little things that I noticed when I recently went to visit Disney Animation Studios, and they were just like I had released the first trailer, I think, and throughout the studio they created all these doors next to the restroom door they would have small restroom doors for different animals, so different sizes all around the studios. They were attached to the wall, so you would go to the restroom and there was you would have different restrooms and then for animals as well. Anyway, that popped into my mind as a little Easter egg, because
Nice.
I'm thinking about all the pre-production that goes, the thinking that goes into how at each of those locations they actually need to make sense. And if you have ever picked up an art of book, you see the obsessiveness of the details, and that's why everything feels real, because there's really they think through. So it's not only the execution in terms of the quality of render, simulation, water effects, rigging, and all the animation, but it's also like really thinking, which leads to what struck me is that the city becomes way more than the setup. It's literally
Mm,
a character in the film
mm,
to some degree. It's something that it's a it's something where the story gets embedded into this specific sequel, even more so than the first one, because of the walls and the mystery of how it started and how they use space to really tell that story. Like the jail, as you pointed out, when they separate, there's a literal separation, physical, and there's sacrifice towards the end. All the how the city itself becomes part of what makes the story advance even more so than the first film.
Yeah, and that's a hard thing to do, and I wonder because with usually with sequels, when they do more, the narrative isn't as tight, and I'd probably argue that's the case here, just because there's, like I say, it's moving to different spaces and places. I think it does hang together because of Judy and Nick, but the first one is by its nature is just to more a tighter story, I feel. But then, like you said, as we're talking about, I just realizing there's a lot that's been well done here. I think part of my reservation was almost is it a point where it becomes almost too polished? That makes sense. I'm thinking of like the first Mario film, where it's like this isn't that, but where it's like it's very polished, it looks great, but it's so safe, it doesn't say anything. This definitely says something, but that's what came into my mind. But as we're talking about it, I'm like, no, actually, there's a lot that's just been well done. Yeah,
I did feel the same about Mario, by the way.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
in terms of, I'm with you. I understand that it feels like almost like a video game, but it's a film. It's not a video game.
Yeah.
So
So it's that. I think one thing that I'd say isn't as I say maybe wasn't as effective was the twist at the end. And Taz, you mentioned Paul Bert. It is a surprise because when we meet him, he doesn't look like that character, and we are full. But for whatever reason, I was not. Not that I wasn't necessarily surprised. It didn't hit as
Mm.
hard, and I wonder if it's because one, I realized afterwards they kind of like done that already in the first one. So the person you think isn't the villain is the villain. But then with his relationship, we do again the elements are there because we do see him. He's introduced to Judy, and we know who he is. But maybe we
Mm.
just don't see enough of that relationship to care as much as. So when it's betrayed, it's like plot wise, I get it, and it's a surprise. But I didn't necessarily feel as much as I could have.
Yeah, see, I did feel it because, like, for ages, I was like, he's clearly gonna double cross them,
Mm,
like for so much of it, and then it was really close to that point where he does betray them that I actually
true that. Maybe I'm wrong.
like
That's
let
all.
my guard down. Yeah, it was literally like I feel like it was moments before I was like, oh, he's like
I owe
he's
him an
in,
apology. Wait a minute.
and then it was like whiplash because it was
Yeah.
like no, no, he is. So because I wasn't surprised when he was the one working with D Snake for his first name, but
Oh, Gary.
Gary D Snake. Like I wasn't surprised when he's working with him, and then I was like, he's totally just there for his family, like he's gonna double cross them. And I don't know at what moment I let my guard, but it was really close. I'm trying to think of like what sequence I let my guard down, but yeah, I feel like it
Interesting.
was
Yeah.
literally that when they're going into the building, I was like, nah, he would have betrayed them by now.
Right. I was thinking it's going to be like a family going to sort of put their thumb down and make him do the thing rather than if it was, oh no, I
Yeah,
want to do this.
yeah, I thought that was like a option as well, and then yeah, and then it was just like he is fully
He's
he's
in.
fully committed to that. Like
Yeah.
even when he got offered the opportunity to think better, he's like no. Like
Mm.
normally when a character like that gets offered the opportunity to be a better person, they at least
They
like
see the
think
light.
about it for half a
Yeah.
second. They're like, oh, maybe I could be. He did not even think about that. He is like full on like, yeah.
it was interesting that they point out in the script. I think it's. I was looking at the script now. It says. I think someone says something like, "Last case, there was a kind of a twist," or they literally tell the audience, "Oh, we know that this is the same of the first movie,"
Oh yeah, yeah.
where they
Judy
literally.
says, yeah. Judy says, sorry. Last case there was kind of a twist.
Yeah, when they start doubting, and then right after.
Oh, I do. Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah. I
remember. Yeah,
remember.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're right.
Maybe that worked on me.
Yeah, it's like we're trying to tell you that we know that this is the same but different. And I always saw that in screenwriting, it's the cheap trick when something doesn't make sense, and you have one of the characters. You see that a lot in television, where one of the characters says something like, and where are you coming from?" Like, or, "Oh, that was lucky." And those moments where are like, as a writer that is what you needed, and it's a little convenient, and or that you're going for something that the audience might frown
Mm,
upon, in this case the repetition of the twist villain, but you just acknowledge that to the audience to make peace with them, and so that they can embrace it, and to remember spotting that dirty trick when I was watching
Right.
the film. But it works. I mean, it's all about not getting the audience distracted and thinking about the prequel film. They're following a story of real characters, real
Sure.
um, animals, human beings.
So you say it comes together. Do you think it comes together in the end? It
Well,
lands.
I don't know, because it's a I turn to and look at my daughters when in those moments, like to see like what is their reaction, because I'm a little biased with the filter of knowing why they're doing that in the script.
Okay. I think it largely does come together. I felt satisfied, not necessarily like a twist and resolution. I actually felt more satisfied with the sort of Nick and Judy and the point that the line that Tazzy read and that moment. I think that was for me. That was like that was the climax of the story, and then the rest was then now coming together and resolving the actual case that they're on. So yeah.
I found the page, by the way. It's interesting.
Okay.
They swear in the script, so we're gonna
Yeah.
skip that. That's interesting. Animated script from Disney. They swear in the action description. It says, "Holy, it's Nibbles, the twist villain." But at last second, the door opens and Nibbles pulls Nick inside. Then interior weather wall continues. Dang door stuck on me, and then seeing Nick safe, Judy sighs and breathes of relief and looks to Pobert a little embarrassed. Sorry, last case there was kind of a twist. So that they're completely acknowledging that the reader of the script
Fair.
should suspect there that it's the twist
Maybe
villain
that
thing.
was it. Maybe it's a combination of the relief of Nick getting in and like, okay, Nick's safe. There was a twist. Is that the twist? Feel like a whole moment of relief, then to just be like
Nope.
completely. There's still a twist, and it's this person while you're thinking of like. I think that was done well. It's like a well placed cheap trick.
Yeah. That's a fair description. Yeah.
Like a
It
well
was
placed
well
cheap
done.
trick can be very, very effective, you know.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm more impressed that they swear in a script
Yeah. I'm
that they
surprised
send out
actually, but
for your consideration
yeah.
for the
Okay.
Academy Award.
We're all
So
about the
when there's an
ships.
intern,
Yeah.
yeah, I was talking about pirate ships. It works, but it's interesting. So it's actually a good surprise, because it means that they didn't sugarcoated the script. So probably this is way closer to the draft that was going around inside the studio, because sometimes they really like polish them before sharing them officially.
Okay. So I don't know if there's. I mean, we talked about some of the characters. There's a lot of characters in this. I don't know if there's any character other than the ones we've covered that stood out to people. Because this is a. I also wonder if there's maybe too many people in this, because it kind of has the effect of something almost like a Marvel team up, where I think Taz, you mentioned it. Like maybe some people don't always get the screen time as much, but they come in for like cameos to do their thing. I'm thinking like Mr. Big was a funny scene. We see him and the shrew crime boss as well. Thinking Flash, 100-yard dash. He gets his moment in there as well. That was funny.
I
It's
love
funny. It
Flash.
works, but it's like they're trying to pack a lot in there character
Yeah.
wise.
I think it worked well though, because I think it doesn't feel like I feel like it doesn't feel like, oh my god, they're trying to get all of these characters in. I feel like it's more of a like, this is a real world where lots of people exist. And we just get like moments of them, because in your real life, that is how you see them. And it doesn't feel like that these characters are there, like that they need screen time, if that makes sense.
You're saying it doesn't feel forced necessarily.
Yeah, it doesn't feel forced. It just feels like, and because I think half of them, like if you've watched the first one, you're somewhat familiar
Yeah.
with them. And then we get like more screen time with the newer characters like Gary the Snake and Nibbles Maple Stick. And we get who they are sprinkled out without them necessarily being like in it the whole time. Like they're being talked about in a way that we then build their character. But like I can totally get it being like trying to bring in an all-star cast and make sure everyone gets a line type thing.
Yeah, it's a bit of that.
But
You need Shakira for the song for
Shakira,
sure.
yeah.
But I loved Flash. I loved Flash's moment, like like him in the car, and like obviously Nibbles is like, I don't think a sloth is the best one. And then we're just like,
you missed the first film.
yeah, it's like, you
This is the
clearly
guy.
weren't there.
Yeah.
And it's like obnoxious fast car. And I think that I just love that. It's like such a brief moment of him, but
Yeah.
it said everything it needed
That's all
to
you
say.
need. Yeah.
And I really just enjoyed the buddy cops, you know, like the different duos. So brief. So their moments were so brief, but yeah, I've watched buddy cop films. I've seen their characters. Like, I just loved that. I just love that they lent into like the really sort of like these like quite stereotyped buddy cop situations, and then totally like sort of flips them on their heads in the therapy at the end, and have their like little short emotional moments. I feel like rather than it feeling like trying to squeeze in a big cast, these characters were just like sprinkles, just like sprinkled throughout.
Okay, that's a good way to, yeah. Because I feel like by and large they worked. I don't know how you felt, Pietro. Is there anything that stood out to you about the characters?
I do believe that there's definitely an element of an homage to characters that they really loved. I do believe that if you have, the song is part of the film, you need to have Shakira there, and so you're trying to make
Yeah,
all those characters as deep as possible, but you also have about 90 minutes to tell the story.
exactly. Yeah.
And I think that in terms of number of characters, why do we see a film that it's an animated film, mainstream, 90 minutes long, with very few characters, and this is a gigantic cast? It's not only that they have more budget; it's also different films, different styles. I do like a lot the more contained films, but it's not that because they are not doing it right. I think that the striking that balance is something from Encanto as well. Like, I think that it's brilliant writing, really hard to pull off. It's really hard to connect with being Mirabel. In this case, it's even more than Judy, and it's caring for both of them plus the secondary characters, and I think that it worked. And plus you have the snake, plus you have that there's a backstory of the characters. They're different. It's really hard to pull off all that and keep track of everything without making it look like a Tenet, like a Christopher Nolan like cerebral thing that you need to just give up at some point and feel dumb, but because you don't understand anything. But sorry, I'm sharing my traumas of.
That's
But yeah,
fine. Yeah,
I remember I had a conversation with the creators of K-pop Demon Hunters and the directors
nice.
and co-writers, and they were being asked, what about the sequels? Why was this focused on Rumi? And it's really about the fact that if you really want to connect with a theme, you need a central dramatic question and usually a sole protagonist. And so every other character is there only to show the protagonist and
To give a
push
perspective on that question.
give perspective on that question. Yeah, exactly. And also kind of torture them towards embracing something different. And so they had a lot of backstories in K-pop Demon Hunters for the other two characters, Rumi and Zoe, but there's not enough time, and it's not their story. It would have been a mistake, even though the fans might think that's a disservice. It would have been a worse movie, and
Yeah.
I think that I really admire how I can see this in other films, how they're able to have a gigantic cast.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point to make. That you only have so much time, you only have so much space, and you have to pick where you're gonna shine light lens, some kind of analogy like that. You have to pick what you focus on in the story, and I think that does make sense. So it might come at the expense of something you might like to see more of, but yeah, it has to be done to some extent. So I'll just run through the themes because we talked about this being quite a strong thematic piece, even though it is aimed at younger audiences. But I think what it does well is bring up those questions about things like racism and othering, because we see the snakes completely exiled. We see reptiles sort of relegated to marsh market, which is still in Zootopia, but at risk of being pushed out even further. It's essentially like a ghetto, and you see the kind of animals that are there. But then part of that journey of Nick and Judy is, well, particularly for Judy, is the kind of community aspect, like just not prejudicing anyone on first sight, but just seeking out the truth. So I do like that. And I think one of the more important ones, and I guess that hard hitting, if you want to say, or for me, it stuck out, is this telling the truth about historical events. And I feel in the story, the idea of like the Linksleys being the creators, and actually that's not true, and them trying to cover that up. I feel where we are today in the world we live in, I'm personally seeing the value, because I used to think when we do like, I don't know, the World War II Remembrance Day and things like that. When I was younger, at least, I thought, these are. I mean, I didn't think completely like this, but it was in my mind like these are old things. Why are we going over old things? But the more I grow up, and particularly now, the value of seeing like this is what happened and ensuring that there is at least majority truth in it. I know everything's not accurate, because often those with power have the more influential voices in telling the truth. But you see in things like this and where we are today, that the importance of saying this is what happened, because there are people who tell you that's not what happened. I'm just going to make something up and you're going to believe that, and now you're going to do something because you believe this lie. So I feel that for me, that's the strongest, well, the one that connected the most in terms of themes. And then just Judy's thing of just doing the right thing. I guess it's kind of tied to that, at least in my mind, where Judy's just a character who would just go against the system if it makes a difference. And it reminded me of, I don't know if either of you have come across this story, this like, I don't know what you call it, poem or analogy or something, the Star Thrower. So this idea, it comes from like a 26-page essay, The Star Thrower by Lauren Isley, but it's been adapted many times fairly recently into a children's story in 2006 called Sarah and the Starfish. And it's this idea of this young person on a beach, and there's this like starfish just awash on the beach, and they're throwing them back into the sea one by one. And I think the idea is there's this older, maybe more cynical character who's saying like, what's the point? What's the point of doing that? Because you're not going to get all of them. You're not making a difference. And then the younger person just kind of like stops and is like, oh, I'm making a difference for this one, and then I'm going to keep doing that. And there's some of that in this film. Like Judy's going to do this thing. Yes, she's trying to crack the case and everything, but like I'm making a difference, and just for this bit, for where I am now, I'm making a difference. And I feel that's an important thing to remember as well. But yeah, I don't know how anyone else felt about the themes that came out or stuck with them in this.
Yeah, I think that everything you discussed and shared, it's completely relevant. And I always try to find what is the narrative theme where everything else, including the sub themes, are narratively hanging on. What is the backbone structure so that determines the character arc? And going back to that page that you read from the script on page 61, it's Nick saying, I don't care about the case, and Judith's not worth dying for. And the answer is the world will never be a better place if no one is brave enough to do the right thing.
And that's true.
Yeah, and it goes into the answer, which in a good duality, well, both arguments should be very strong. In this case, it's acting as the counterpart, because Hobbes, Judy, that she represents this truth that she is trying to share with the world.
Mm.
And Nick's counterpoint is also valid. You know, the world is what it is, carrots, and sometimes being a hero, it just doesn't make a difference.
Yeah, that
That's
too.
what we
Yeah.
were. And maybe we are the difference, which leads into transcendence. Now, are you doing good things just to feel good, or is there a good and that it's bigger than than just the consequence and how efficient some action might be. And so another note that I wanted to share that comes more from the perspective of the writing aspect of it is that many times we believe that these films are intentionally trying to send out a message because of the situation of the world. And I think there's a lot of misinterpretation around that because of the way the films are created and the way good storytelling is created. One time I was working in Mexico with some of the directors that work with Guillermo del Toro, the Mexican director, and in one of the discussions, he was asked what to do if you want to go out and create films that are, creating justice and solving issues in society and showing that there is a different way to see things. And Guillermo's answer was striking because he said, "Don't do that. Never do that. That is never good storytelling." Something like that. I don't want to put words in Maestro's mind, but he said what I do remember specifically is that he used the word propaganda. We immediately think of an intended use when we talk about propaganda, but it's not always the case. If you look at the word in narrative terms, which I think that's how he was using that definition, is that you don't write trying to convince someone else to change their mind. You write exploring this
Yeah,
question,
for sure.
thematic
Yeah.
question, to really find what is the truth, what is the counter argument. Is the world really what it is, and we're just trying to believe that we can make a difference, but it's not. It's more for us than the world. Or is it actually something there? And he was that conversation struck me a lot because we all want to be, to bring positive stories, but that's the worst recipe to create a good story. And I see now it has nothing to do with Zootopia, but Frankenstein is a great example of that.
Right. No, I totally agree with that. I feel like as a storyteller, I try and keep that in mind. You shouldn't necessarily, because I think everyone's got a voice. Every creator has a voice, and you'll see that voice. But it shouldn't just be like, "Here's what I think. I'm just going to tell you to think the same thing." The way I try and come at it is like, I have this question, like you mentioned, this question, and I'm gonna use typically the characters to explore that. And the thing that always comes to my mind with this topic is Studio Ghibli in general, but Princess Mononoke specifically, in the way it uses characters with different perspectives and all valid for their reasons, but different perspectives on this idea of preserving sort of nature and industrialization and where those conflicts are. And it makes a better story because, like you say, you're not just propaganda, because you might have the best intentions, but it's not an interesting story if you just say, "I think this thing," and every character is going to think the same thing. I'm just going to tell you to think this thing by the end. It's way more interesting as a creator, but also as an audience. If you like, "Okay, I think this thing, but this character thinks a different thing. Actually, they've got a point because this is where they're coming from, and we're going to explore that." And then you might end up in a different place than you think. So I totally agree with that. I would try and keep that in mind for myself as well. So yeah, and I think through Judy and Nick and just other characters in this vast cast, they do a pretty good job of exploring those questions that it sets out. So yeah, no, I think it works. I think my reservations have been reduced a little bit. I think this is a really well made piece. Would you both be interested in seeing more stories from this? 'Cause, I mean, we're going to get them anyway, because when you make over $1 billion each time, you're going to get
Yeah.
more of it. So, but would you like to see more of them?
I wouldn't mind. I do think it has, because they left it at a point where it was like, this could easily end here, or we've got literally like an endless supply of movies now because we've got
Yeah,
a
we show
whole
you all the
escaped
locations.
criminals,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
and all that. I do know that there's also the short series,
Yeah, on Disney
Zootopia
Plus.
Plus. Yeah. I've not watched it, but I know there's that. So it'd be interesting to see if they do more things like that. But yeah, I'm happy to see more. I feel like it doesn't need to be every 2 years. Like they can drag it out.
Yeah, give some time. Yeah. 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 Try telling that to Disney
um,
shareholders.
yeah, but there's definitely more stories to be told. I'll stop caring when they start not having as much impact. There's
Mm.
so much opportunity to explore lots of different themes with these two characters.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Me too. I think that it's very similar to Inside Out 2, which was the previous second most grossing film and the number one in this hemisphere compared to, because the number one is the Chinese film
Yes.
Niha. I don't know how to pronounce it
Me
correctly, but
neither, but yeah.
okay, yeah,
Yeah.
that dethroned Inside Out, and that's a similar situation where you have these characters, and it's hard. I hope and I wish for both teams to have their Toy Story 3 moments. I think that Toy Story 3 is a masterpiece, and for me, it is the proof that it's really not about the fact it's a sequel or an original. Of course, I'm all about original, but as you mentioned, we're not naive. If a movie does well, I don't need to wait for the announcement for Inside Out 3 or K-pop Demon Hunters 2 or Zootopia 3. It's just like automatic. There's no way they're not gonna know, because it gives the uncertainty of that. But at the same time, I think that many people complain about sequels and
Mm.
these big IPs going on forever. I always think about Toy Story 3, which is, I cannot put it number one, as you shared before, because there's the original is the original. It blew my mind, changed my life. But the 3 is such a great story. And every time there's a sequel, especially at these big studios where the sequels, we're no longer in the straight to DVD era or the Disney sequel, like the old sequel used to mean like less budget, less quality, faster,
That's a good
quicker,
point.
straight to DVD.
Yeah. The Lion
Now they
King.
do put a lot of effort. Yeah, Lion King, Cinderella, 2 and 3, and those kind of films, and it could be great. It could be even better than the first and the second one. So it's always up to the creative team and to really put into that to see. That's why I will watch Toy Story 5, and maybe it's gonna be good. you know,
Me.
I hope it's gonna be great. I hope it's gonna be even better than the third, but it's really hard to top.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, we're going to get more, so be prepared for that. But that was our discussion on Zootopia 2 or Zootropolis, depending on where you are in the world. Let us know what you thought about the film, how it compares to the first, or just in general, the themes, characters. Give us a shout. You can reach us in different ways. And before we wrap up, going to end with our storytelling tip. Each time we do a deep dive on the podcast, I like to pull out a storytelling tip for others to consider when making their stories. So, this is a consideration from someone who also creates stories and likes to learn from the techniques or mistakes of others. And for today's episode, I wanted to discuss crafting an impactful villainous twist. I mean, it's something that happened in this film, and it's an interesting thing in general. And I feel having that surprise villain it's entertaining, it's engaging, and it happens when a character in a story who seems to be the villain but it's actually revealed to be another character. So it's usually when someone we thought was good is actually the villain, hence the surprise. So it's meant to be a surprising moment, but it's also been done a lot, so it's becoming a trope, so therefore harder to pull off effectively. But yeah, it's popular because it adds an ideally unexpected element of surprise and helps the story stick with us by upending our own expectations, especially when the twist does play on one of the common expectations of what a villain might look like or act like. And when done properly, it has a dual emotional effect. So the audience feels surprise and gets that feeling of recognizing the truth that has been quietly present all along. But on the other hand, if it's poorly done, it can feel arbitrary or just neutral and meh. And I guess ideally you don't really want that. And I feel the difference lies in the groundwork that's been done. So a successful villain twist has different elements, established character relationships, some earned trust between the characters and the audience, some careful foreshadowing in there, and good connection to the theme would be a bonus in my mind. So when those elements are missing or not done as well, the twist isn't as effective. And I think that's what the problem, for me at least, that undermines the reveal of Paulbert as the real villain in Zootopia 2. The betrayal maybe comes without the right level of preparation. So at its core, it works because the audience has been misdirected rather than outright deceived. And I do feel all the elements were there for Paul Bert. We do get some established trust and proximity because when he and Judy meets in the beginning, they seem to share a connection, similar perspectives early on. It's even reinforced when we see him helping both Judy and Gary. So there is foreshadowing, and we do understand the context with which Paul Bert lives his life as the black sheep of the family. So it does make sense, but the pieces don't quite come together for me. I can't quite place it why, but they just don't hit as well when it all comes together in a result. And I think it's the relationship investment. So we need to feel that the character belongs, the villain, the eventual villain character belongs within the protagonist's inner circle. And maybe it just didn't feel there was enough of a relationship between Judy and Paul Bert to make that land. So, plus a great villain twist, I feel should do more than just shock the audience. It should also reinforce the story's core ideas. So, a masterpiece example is The Usual Suspects. So, I'm just going straight to the top here. That reveals a weak and powerless character is actually the legendary criminal Kaiser Soze. So, that twist also matches perfectly with the film's themes of deception and myth making. And a good twist should help us reinterpret the story. So, after the reveal, the audience should feel compelled to go back and reconsider everything that they've just experienced. So those subtle hints throughout the story that we can revisit, we can go back to earlier scenes and recognize, oh yeah, it was there. That truth that was always there. Another example, although it's not a villain twist necessarily, and again, it is a sort of masterclass of an example, The Sixth Sense, because once we learn that Malcolm has been dead the entire time, we just have to go back and look at those clues. So that the lack of interaction with other characters, the symbolic color red, the moments where the dialogue takes on new meaning. And I'm not saying Zootopia need to hits that level, but just as examples of like really, really well done examples. So particularly for this film, especially because there was already a villain twist in the first film, I feel that it could have been elevated a bit more to improve that emotional and thematic hit that wasn't fully there for me, and it didn't make it as satisfying as it could have been. So here are a few tips when crafting a villain twist in your story. So I'd say first is really build that relationship. That's really important. So make the audience really invest in this relationship before you break it. So that future villain should have a meaningful connection with the protagonist, whether it's friend or mentor or ally romantic interest. So then the betrayal really like hits, and it will only resonate when that trust does really exist. Number two is maybe even consider doing the reveal earlier than the third act. So because the villain twist is a trope by this point, maybe make some changes to it. So good example in Captain America, Winter Soldier, Hydra was revealed as the villain earlier in the second act. And maybe if they'd done it later in the story, we might have figured it out or might not have hit as well. But they made a change, which maybe that mixes things up. And I'd say number three is also think about how you can align the twist with the story's themes. So really consider what the villainous twist says about the narrative's central theme. So I feel a reveal on that level will deepen those central ideas rather than distracting from them or just being a shock value kind of situation. So yes, because without the right elements in the right way, the twist can become hollow and not hit as hard. So yeah, don't forget that emotional groundwork so that the twist doesn't feel like a sudden turn or even worse, I'd say a so-so moment. Instead, it should feel like the truth that was always there, just waiting for the audience to finally see it. So that's the tip for this episode. Let us know what you think if you are making your own story. Again, jump in our Discord or email us studio77@myamada.com. Before we wrap up completely, let's check in with our guest.
So we would love to hear any latest news or interesting projects that you have coming up, and also where everyone can find you online. Pietro, do you want to let us know?
Thank you, Tazziii. And by the way, I love the tip. It's really, really good. And
Thank you.
you said like don't push for shock value when you create a twist. It's so great. And yeah, it's I've been very busy in development with a series that hasn't been announced yet. It's an animated CG series. I'm loving getting to know the characters more and more. We are now working on the animatics and getting to produce into production with some of the first sequences. And It's been great. It's a great independent team and with some great veterans from the animation industry as well. And I've also co-produced The Piano. It's a short film that's completely hand-drawn in 2D animation, and that is now in the festival circuit, and we are having a lot of positive reactions. It's from a young female filmmaker, Avery Kroll, and it's her first film, very personal, and I love to work with 2D artists and go back to that the real sense of art when you see things done by hand and the care of the details, and it's really great. And also got me to collaborate a bit with Tony Bancroft, legendary animator from Disney, who is also an executive producer on the project. And then for all of you who love storytelling as a consequence, as an expansion, as a passion project of everything I do in the animation industry, there is Write for Animation. That's where you can find interviews, master classes, and conversations and tips and classes with the people, storytellers, creators behind the films you love. So we interviewed Jared Bush, as we shared before. We had a lot of people from Pixar. It's a studio that has a lot to share about storytelling. We had people from Netflix Animation, from Sony, but also some more independent creators and on Write for Animation to help you become a better storyteller and do this for a living, because it's isn't it the best job in the world to tell stories in this medium. So everything is free online. If you really feel like it's time to take things to a different level, we also offer the Write for Animation Academy. It's way more than writing. We create together, we give each other feedback. We have a lot of sessions where we are discussing how to bring out our projects on the screen and also create a sustainable career. And you can find everything at writeforanimation.com. And I suggest you visit the free stuff part of that website, because we give away a lot of templates and things that you can use in your own stories, whether you're working in comics or film, animation, or video games. Storytelling is the heart of any medium.
Thank you so much for sharing that. It sounds like some amazing projects there. Yeah, we'll add some stuff to the show notes for people to find.
And thank you for joining us, Pietro. It's really good to get that perspective.
I really enjoyed the conversation. It got me to get deeper into Zootopia and read the script and get to revisit the interview with Jared. And it's great. I really love what you guys are doing. It's crazy the production schedule now with the series, but I cannot wait to start catching up on some of the episodes. And there's one that I will definitely listen to, F1, because it's one of the films I need to watch before the Oscars. Yeah.
Yeah. Let us know what you think when you.
Is there anything I can do for you that I could help you with promoting this and everything you do?
No, I really appreciate that, and yeah, thank you. And you're welcome back. That's actually the trick to get coming back. You shower us with praise, and we will invite you back. So there you go. Thank you very much for that. Definitely, really appreciate. I'm glad to know that our conversations are having an impact with people, especially people who are in the writing and very much know what they're talking about. So yeah, thank you, and thank you for everyone listening. Remember that Story X Story is one of the shows on the Studio 77 platform. We have different shows talking with creative professionals and practitioners. We also play some games for your amusement from time to time. So each month you can enjoy one of the shows, obviously Story X Story, which you're listening to. We've got the Studio 77 report. We live stream that, as well as casual conversations with comic creators and games night as well. So make sure you're following us on Twitch, YouTube as well, because we stream there. And if you're a young, aspiring creative professional, or you know of one, then take a look at the Maya Matter Showrunners Work Experience Program. So we have been creating opportunities for young people aged 16 and up to work with our team across comic production, events, content creation, all about finding that experience, that opportunity to gain experience, build portfolio, all very much needed in the creative industry. So you can email us, showrunners@mayamatter.com, to find out more about that. As for the podcast, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a future episode. You can also give us a 5-star rating and review because that helps us reach new listeners and fans of story discussions. We release new episodes on Thursdays, sometimes Fridays, depending on when I do the editing. But those include video game discussions, interviews with creative practitioners, and deep dives into stories across pop culture like this one. Remember, you can always give us a shout directly. Our email address is studio77@mymatter.com, and our website with links to subscribe is mymatter.com/storyxstory. So thank you for tuning in, and until next time, stay safe. And remember, despite my early reservations, holy ship, that was a good animation. Pirate ship, of course. Take care, everyone.